Okay, guys, got a 2008 Cadillac CTS 3.6. There you go, CTS 3.6. Drain issues. I had water in my. I actually bought this car for my stepdaughter. Bought the car, thought, hey, it seems like a relatively good car. Bought it on a bright, sunshiny day. Anyways, long story short, I've had water in the floorboard. So the first thing I did was I started YouTubing, just like you're doing. And of course, I found that the issue is the drain tubes in the sunroof. So I watched a video. Make a long story short, you basically have a drain tube that is up here in this corner. Let me see if I can get up here and get a video for you. See if we can see it down off in that bottom corner, right down off in there. There you go. You can see the little hole. So basically what it does is it drains. It has a drain tube that runs down the A-pillar and down into the inner fender. So I watched a video and the guy basically said, find you some string. Of course, I use weed eater string. That's kind of what he was using. Mine was pretty stiff. So what he said to do was it was just about impossible to get to from the inside. So he cut his wheel hard all the way to the right. And this is the same thing I tried. You have to get to all these screws that hold the mud flap on. So basically what I did was I jacked the car up and pulled the tire off, pulled all the screws out, dropped this side of the inner fender well. And yes, you could see where the nipple was poking out from the drain tube. So in his video, what he said was he unhooked the hose from the nipple and run a piece of string all the way up, and he did find debris somewhere in between, and it fixed his issue. So I did the same thing. Now, when I did drop my inner fender well, like I said, this car was used. Sorry about the shaking, guys. It's kind of cold out here, and as you can see, I've got my little heat going. Anyways, so when I disconnected the hose, I run my line up through there. There was some debris down in the bottom of it. So I thought, okay, well, it could be trash. So I run the thing up through there. There was a little black gunk that came out. Nothing that I thought maybe clogged it up. But I thought maybe it was enough since it was gravity that it did clog it up. So my stepdaughter gets in to drive yesterday, and she says, now, we don't drive this often. She's just fixing to turn 16. So it basically sits out in our driveway, and we drive it just trying to teach her to get her familiar with a new car. And it's going to be her car. So as you can see, I do have some of the interior tore out. Now, what I did notice was because I did know where the drain tube was basically on the inner fender well, the first thing I did when I come in the car was I took my hand and I pressed up against the carpet where the drain tube would be, which would be right up in here. I had zero moisture right there. I had water and it's still damp. The carpet is still wet. You can probably see it on my hand. So I've got to get that cleaned up. But she said when we drove the car last night that she thought she felt a drip on her left foot, which ultimately told me that water was coming higher than that drain tube. So I just about gave up on the drain tube. Well, I had never really pulled the A-pillar cover off of the inside to see if maybe I had a hole or a crack or even see the edge of the windshield. So I dropped the edge or the A-pillar, and this is what you see. All it's got is a couple little push clips. It does have a little tab. You just have to unhook. And then you pull the whole A-pillar out of the way. It's laid over there on the ground. So here's your hose. It runs all the way up. Like I said, it runs up here to this corner and all the way back down into there, underneath the dash, and goes out. So I didn't see any issues in here. I did check the seal on the windshield. No leaks there. Nothing that I seen. Couple videos I watched, they did say, it could possibly be the AC, which is actually on that side. I had no water there in that drain. I didn't pull that back, but there was zero moisture on the carpet right there, so I knew it had to be coming over here on the left side. So I ultimately I jerked this A-pillar down without really paying much attention to it. So after looking and trying to figure out some things, I went back over here to the A pillar, and I couldn't really see it when it was in the car, but you can see that there has been moisture on this A pillar. So I'm kind of glad that I pulled this off. But to make a long story short, let's do what I did to fix it and why it didn't work the last time I did it. So you basically have this cover that sits in here just like this. So when you've got your factory car or your car, you just simply pop this up, pop it out, get it out of the way. Then you take it and you roll your carpet back. You want to be sure to get it underneath your brake pedal. That'll hold it down, get it out of your way. So there is an easier way to get to that drain tube, and that is right through here. There is another piece of insulation that you can see. It does have a wiring harness that is, kind of right here in the way, but it does slide right off of that screw, and you can get your hand back in there. Now, for this video, I did pull this drain tube back out just to show you where my problem was. So this little rubber piece right here, so this is the hose that actually comes down from the sunroof. So before, this piece was stuck into the inner fender well, and I left it in the car. The guy that I watched, he just left this in the car and simply disconnected the hose. Well, I'd run my hose, or I'd run a piece of wire up through there. Like I said, I did find some debris. This piece stayed in the car. So this thing just slides off of the hose, just like that. Pulls right off. Nothing's holding it, no glue, no nothing. So I'm going to show you the inside of this. This is where my issue was. This is a very poor design, in my opinion, from Cadillac. There was debris, there was gunk, there was, I'm not real sure. I'm guessing they maybe had this car parked under some trees at some point, or just some stuff coming off the sunroof. There's no telling. But anyways, there is a little piece in there. I'm not real sure why they would want to catch debris in this tube that is gravity feeding water from the sunroof. But they did. So we have to fight this issue. It is a known issue. If you look, there is issues everywhere all over the internet. So to get me back to where, so I cleaned this out, and I did take a screwdriver, and I did poke through that rubber. I tried to get all of that out of there. It will not come out of there. I probably could have took an X-Acto knife or something of that nature and probably got down in there and cut it all out just to give it an open tube, which I may end up doing before I put this back together. But to get me where I ended up back at this drain tube was, I wanted to figure out where the water was coming out and why it felt like it was, landing on her foot. I didn't want electrical issues. This car is full of electrical, and I did not want that on my hands. So because I did drop the A-pillar piece down, it kind of gave me a chance to pull this headliner down just a little bit to see, I thought maybe, I can stretch it out just a little bit and I can see, well, no, you can't really see too much. So what I did was I shut the sunroof. I was trying to find a water source. I'm not real close to the water hose that is attached to the house. I'm in the second garage, but I did find this thing, and we had it, I guess from some parties or something that we've had. Anyways, I filled it up with water. I shut the sunroof, and I physically took this thing, set it on top of the roof, and I took a piece of paper. That's just, you could use basically any kind of paper that you wanted. I wanted to find a water leak, so I stretched it out. That's from where I actually was painting, so I had some extra, big paper left over. So I laid it, the entire seat, down across the floorboard. Like I said, the A-pillar still off. So all you have is the headliner up here. I set the bucket of water on top, and what it does is, when it comes to the edge of the seal, it slowly drips down through there, hits this corner, depending on which way the car is leaning. It'll either hit this drain tube or it will hit the drain tube over there. There is drain tubes in the rear that you cannot get to at all. That glass does not move. The only way to get to it is to drop the entire headliner. I did check the back first. I let the water run, let it run down in here, hit this back seal. As you can see, the drain tubes, they come down off the back, down, around, and go underneath, and it drains on both sides. So I kind of left that to be, I knew my problem was in the driver's side only. So I turned the bucket of water around and I ran it to where it ran down into this corner. And to give it a little extra help coming this way, I did stand on the side of the car. That made the car lean just a little bit. It's just kind of gravity thing. Gravity came towards me. Water started running. I noticed it did kind of puddle for a minute, and it seemed like then it started to still roll. I could take it and look down in that hole and watch the water running. The water itself was dripping right out of here. And I said, okay, well, that could be an issue. Maybe where it connects to the drain tube in there is disconnected. No, that's not the case either. The drain tube itself, that little rubber piece that I showed you, was clogged. I decided to pull it back out just to be sure that it was draining, and I didn't know why it was coming out here, but it was. So basically what it was doing was, now that I realized kind of how this drains and why it drains and how it works, I did get up and look to see how the water was getting to the actual inside of the car. So if you come up here, you've got your drain tube that's down here in the corner. Well, I could imagine that if it filled up, it may run off into here, and that was maybe how it was getting there. No, not really. If you look around the edge, you can see right in here. Now this is on the driver's side, and you can see over there on the other side, on the passenger side, there is a spot there too. So basically, this entire trough that runs all the way around the edge of this, underneath all of this, was filling up, and it was going into here, down and around, and coming out right through here, just as pretty as it could be. Well, the issue was the drain tube was not draining on this side. So, you reach down in here, and I thought, well, shoot, I've checked the drain hose, but I'll check it again. Maybe some debris was in there, but it was indeed this little piece. So to put it back together, all you have to do, you slide it back on your hose. I think I can do this probably one-handed, maybe. Okay, so now I have it back on my hose. Did it one-handed, nothing, like I said, nothing to it. Then you simply feed it. Let me see if I can show you the hole. It's a pretty decent hole. I mean, I feel like I've got pretty big hands. Well, I can't exactly show you, but it's right behind that nipple. It's just a square hole cut out. And right now you can run your hand in there and feel the hole where it actually goes through to the inner fender well. Now you can't see that hole here because it's on the inner side, not the outer side. So basically that little nipple, you just take it and push that hose back through, and take your finger or something and feel around, and you'll feel where that little nipple, this little nipple right here, where it slides into the hole and drains out into the inner fender well and hits the ground. I've ran water. I've shut the sunroof. I've ran about 4 or 5 of those. I guess that's 2 gallons probably. Just set it up here on the top, let it run forward. I did do the passenger side as well. Basically the same exact thing, just different sides. You're just going to roll the carpet down and reach your hand in there and get to it. I hope this helps. I know I fought this issue several times. I didn't think it was that, and indeed it was. So good luck to you guys. Please comment, let me know what you think, and stay tuned for more videos.